So we have it clear in the housekeeping. There are now 8 fighters on tomorrow night's card. Whoever ends up with the first pick will be making the pick that they believe they are the most confident in to get a contract tomorrow night. How will we decide who gets the first pick? By virtue of a trivia question.
Bring it on.
And this week, I will ask AJ a trivia question. I will say, man, I will be impressed if you get this, and I'm going to give you a really good hint. So, the Ultimate Fighter, Chael P. Sonnen calls it the most difficult tournament in sports, the ultimate proving ground. 56 humans on the planet can truthfully look themselves in the mirror and call themselves winners of the Ultimate Fighter. Cut it in half. 28 of them still fight in the UFC. 16 of them are retired. That leaves 13. My man, the question is on the screen if you need reference. Of said 13, actively fighting former tough winners that are not still on the UFC roster, who has the most wins? I will give you a hint. It is not Ryan Bader.
Wait, hold on. I just want to make sure I understand this question. Of the 13.
So, of people that have won tough and are still fighting, but not in the UFC, there's 13 of them. Ryan Bader is an example, obviously. Bellator.
Okay.
Who has the most wins? And like I said, the answer is not Ryan Bader. He has the 3rd most wins.
Oh, I have a guess, but I just want to double check with my head because I think I know where you're going with this. How much time do I have?
10 seconds.
Really? All right. Jonathan Brookins.
It's a good guess. The second most. So Ryan Bader with 25 wins has the 3rd most, or 27 wins, I think, has the 3rd most wins of anybody that formerly won tough and is not fighting in the UFC. Stormin Norman Park has the 2nd most. And the correct answer to the trivia question was Efrain Escudero.
Oh, I would have never guessed him.
31-16.
Okay. Nah, I don't feel bad about it. Would have never guessed his name.
I would not have asked you that question if I didn't come up with the idea of giving you the hint of saying not Bader, because, I mean, my first jump at that, if someone asked me that, would be, oh, that's an easy one, Bader.
Yeah, it would have been mine.
Regardless. So, that being said, Davidson has the first pick. And with the first pick of the TBL draft, Davidson's going to go with Dustin Jacoby. As we talked about, Dustin Jacoby having the experience that he's had, number 1 overall pick, right? Having the experience that he's had, fighting the guys that he has, the kickboxing credentials, the acumen. Look, you and I both said, going forward, pressing towards Jacoby, getting close to him, and making this fight as ugly as possible is going to be Flores's path to victory, right? How dangerous is that when you go up against a guy that can work in the clinch and knee you coming in like Dustin Jacoby did? That's exactly how I see this fight ending. Dustin Jacoby is my number 1 overall pick for this week's draft. Floor is yours, my man. Number 2 overall pick.
What a shocker. You chose Jacoby as the number 1 pick.
Biggest favorite on the card, right? Had to go chalk. Could you hear the chalkboard?
Can't say I would have picked him myself.
Like I said at the beginning of the program, though, if Siler had never fallen off of this card, Siler would be my number 1 pick.
Okay, fair enough. You'll get by this week, but we'll see what the future holds. For this week, I'll pick Jordan Leavitt. I don't know how to say his last name. Leavitt.
Come on, man. Jordan Leavitt. You said you watched films on this guy, right?
I did, but I'm not a big-time name pronouncer guy. That's not what I'm known for.
Really? You didn't major in name pronunciation in college?
English was always my worst subject. So anything to do with reading,
really?
Writing, it was just, yeah. I was more of a math guy. Yeah. So,
but you're going with Leavitt.
Jordan L.
You're going with Leavitt. Okay, so Jacoby and Leavitt are off the board. Let me get this card back up here. Who does that leave me with? Let's start crossing these guys off. That's the wrong document. But I just want to start crossing these guys off as we list them so I know who we have to work with. Okay, so Dustin Jacoby, number 1 pick. Jordan Leavitt, was AJ Shulo's number 1 pick. I'm going to go with Mikey Rodriguez, who is a betting underdog, but like we mentioned earlier, or Mikey Gonzalez, of course, like Rodriguez and Gonzalez is fighting, So Mikey Gonzalez is my pick now. And I'm going to go with him because I am going to pick him to win tomorrow night. Like I said, I think Medic, a lot of potential, right? Really, really heavy kicks. Really likes to hammer and go after the body. That's what I noticed too when he opens up with that kick. But again, Gonzalez, when you are a BJJ brown belt and you can tap guys and you're a Pan American BJJ champion and you decide, I'm going to give this MMA thing a try. Not only do you realize, striking's fun, but now it's your niche. Now it's where you finish guys. Now, I don't know if it's a specialty or not. That's part of the Contender series. We're going to learn about these guys, obviously, before the contracts are given out to them. And I think no more than these two guys in this fight particularly, but I think Gonzalez has enough flash and has enough talent to not only get this done, but maybe spectacularly. I love this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if either guy won, but Gonzalez is my 3rd pick.
I got to be surprised. I'm kind of shocked that you chose there, but I'm pretty...
Why? Tell me.
Well, because, realistically, it could go to decision because Uros, hasn't been finished. And I think this is one of the fights more likely to go to decision, even though it is, well, I take that back. I'm way off on that.
I'm about to say, so many people are hoping you're wrong. We're talking about the Contender series here, man. By next week, I need to make sure I have the numbers correct and crunched. I need to know what the finish rate is, like total for the last 3 summers. Yeah. If you had to ballpark it, what do you think it is? 60%, 65%?
Something like that. Yeah, because we talk about because we talk about all these finishes in the 25-foot octagon, and then you couple that with the fact that, hey, they got extra incentive to go for the finish. I guess I was way off on that. It's minus 280, 285. I don't know why I thought it was a bit nicer, but I think if he wins, he could go out there and just look like put on a striking clinic, put on a good volume performance in technique. Mine would be I'm going to go with Jerome Rivera. I don't know if he's ready for the UFC yet, but I think if he wins this fight, it could be an impressive fashion, on the ground, on the feet. I think he could even win by knockout. That was one thing I noticed with Luis's striking defense is he could definitely do a better job with the footwork, with the head movement. And Jerome is again a crafty, long, awkward guy to deal with some power. So I could see something like that materializing, and then also just the extra cushion would be he could get it done on the ground as well. So I would pick Jerome Rivera.
All right. So those, spoiler alert, those are my 4 guys I'm picking to win tomorrow night. Those are my 4 picks. So now I must operate from the standpoint as if I have to draft someone I think is going to lose. And that's the interesting part about this. And my pick, coincidentally enough, is going to be your previous pick's opponent. Here's why. And here's the caveat. Could we see developmental deals broken out as well? If there's going to be a guy on this card to get one, why not the guy who is the only one that cannot legally have a beer at a bar? Luis Rodriguez is 20 years old, as we mentioned. Dude, to have 13 fight or to be going into your 13th fight and not even being able to legally drink. This dude turned pro. Let me check my notes. This dude turned pro when he was 17, dude. This dude turned pro in MMA before he could buy a cigarette, man. And Dana says all the time, young, is it the be-all, end-all? No. If I'm looking at a guy and I like him, is that something I check? Is that a box I check? Yeah. And again, flyweight, need them. Fighters to help the Mexican market or help bring up the Mexican market, could always use more of them. Wins impressively. I'll go as far as saying if he wins by finish tomorrow night, he's signed. Flyweight, they need bodies. Rodriguez, he's young, he's talented. And I just completely made a case for a guy I think is going to lose. So now it's your turn.
Mine is Uros would be my second one.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he's the obvious one. I think you're kind of giving me that response because it's that was kind of the obvious one, but
right. But we both know how close this fight's going to be. And as we said earlier, dude, outside of the training room, these two dudes have never stood across from a guy as talented as they are going to tomorrow night when they stand across from one another.
Yeah. And this might be like a little bit of a reach, but I think there is maybe something to it. Like I think training with Jaron Cannonier and like Cannonier having the momentum that he's on right now, that could definitely, be encouraging in terms of him getting a contract. I remember it was a little bit different, but when Paul Felder was commentating for Brandon Allen's fight on the Contender Series, he was definitely saying some really good things. Obviously
Jordan Griffin too.
Jordan Griffin, yeah. So definitely, having that like guy that has established greatly in the UFC, and then you have somebody that trains with them / knows them. I think that could potentially help. It's kind of like applying for a job and you already know somebody that works for the company. So
really, that helps people get hired places?
Supposedly.
Are you sure?
I want to know from my own experience, but that's the word on the street.
Hold on. You're telling me in the United States of America, people who on resume and credentials alone aren't going to get a job over someone who knows somebody?
They say it pays to have connections.
And what better connection to have than that? At this point, everybody should have Stipe Miocic in their corner, because after Alexa Camera won, I believe it was like 0.2 seconds, Dana had Stipe screaming in his iPhone speaker, "Sign my fucking boy." You remember that last summer when he won and he called Dana immediately? Like literally Dana is standing up right when the fight's over, and like it came out right after that. That was Stipe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine all these guys that are in the UFC are putting a good word in for their guy, and that's what you got to do. It's kind of like if you're a fighter in the UFC and you want to talk trash, and you got to back it up. But at the same token, you got to it's a risk, but it's a risk that some of these guys want to take, and if it pays off, it pays off in a big way. Like Conor McGregor, other fighters as well that have talked a lot of trash. I mean, that's how you make the big bucks. So it doesn't always hurt to do some talking beforehand, get excited, and talk afterwards to see how everything checked out.
Apparently, it's not a very good fight card to be on with the last name of Flores, at least according to AJ and I, because set the table, look at the setting. As I said earlier, you're picking kids to play kickball at recess, and now you're down to the last two. One of them's got to be the guy that awkwardly mopes over as the last pick. And one of them's going to be a Flores, I guess. I don't think they're related, even though it is kind of ironic that they're both on this card. Regardless, I'm going with Luke Flores, and man, what a steal by Davidson Baker. All the draft pundits are going crazy, and they love Davidson Baker's team this week, because I got a guy who's already been on the Contender Series before. I got a guy whose only loss is to a guy like in Matt Frivola, who we know is talented. Again, he was a little bit inactive in between the two-fight Combate America stint and now. One of those fights was a win by injury that I think only lasted 40 seconds. So really, he's only had one fight since then. That scares me, obviously. And as we mentioned earlier, Levitt, is he green? Yes. Does he have more paths to victory? Yes. But we got to remember where Flores has been. And if your only loss in your MMA career through 10 fights is Matt Frivola, not bad. Davidson's team's looking good. You got the last guy, buddy.
I will solidify the fact that we're going to be on opposite sides for each and every single one of these fights by picking Tyler Flores as my last pick. Flores, I mean, we both like Jacoby to win. If Flores wins, though, I would imagine it would be coming through the wrestling, some ground and pound. To the point we just talked about, he is a guy that trains an elevation-type fight team with Alistair Overeem, Curtis Blades, Justin Gaethje, Trevor Whitman, etc. Just everybody that the camp is honestly just on fire right now in 2020. Haven't really dealt with many setbacks. So I think that could help should he get his hand raised. I mean, I think you're on the right side of that fight, but it's MMA at the end of the day. There's no sure things. We've seen some big favorites lose recently, and just as recent as last card, and in a high variance sport, who knows? I think Jacoby probably gets his hand raised, but of course I got to pick the last fighter in the pool.